Today's news, Friday, January the 9th, 2009. Child obesity epidemic is a myth. Doubts have been raised over the so-called childhood obesity epidemic, with an Australian researcher saying obesity rates have stalled. Binge drinking solution, make light beer cheaper. Excises should be removed on light beer to cut alcohol-related crime and health complications, Vic Health Chief Executive Todd Harper says. UN halts aid to Gaza over safety fears. The United Nations halted aid deliveries to the besieged Gaza Strip on Thursday, citing Israeli tanks on its staff and installation hours after it said gunfire from an Israeli tank killed one of its drivers. Police attacked by 100 teens at a MySpace party. Police were forced to take cover as up to 100 drunken teenagers pelted them with rocks and bottles when they tried to break up a wild party advertised on social networking website MySpace. Gaza attacks claims more than 700 lives. Palestinian fighters killed 3 Israeli soldiers and wounded several more on Thursday in clashes and rocket attacks on Israel, the military said. Australians killed by freak glacier collapse. 2 Australian tourists were killed when 100 tons of ice collapsed on them at the Fox Glacier in New Zealand's Southern Alps after reportedly ignoring a safety barrier. Democracy activist jailed for 6 years in China. A 65-year-old democracy activist who tried to set up an opposition party in China has been sentenced to 6 years in jail, a human rights group said on Thursday. A court in Hangzhou, a prosperous city in eastern Zhejiang province, sentenced Wang Rongxing on Wednesday on charges of subverting state power for organizing the banned China Democracy Party, according to the Chinese human rights defenders. Wang was detained in June, 2 months before the Olympic Games started, the group said. Barack Obama urges spending jolt to avert severe recession. U.S. President-elect Barack Obama warned that only immediate and massive spending to jolt the world's largest economy could avert a deep recession and double-digit unemployment. The economic cost of not launching a huge stimulus, even in the face of a budget deficit forecast to top U.S. $1 trillion this year, could be far worse, he said. I don't believe it's too late to change course, but it will be if we don't take dramatic action as soon as possible. If nothing is done, this recession could linger for years, Obama said, as he prepares to take office on January the 20th. He warned that if nothing were done, the unemployment rate could reach double digits. Our nation could lose the competitive edge that has served as a foundation for our strength and standing in the world. In short, a bad situation could become dramatically worse. Despite a Democratic majority in both Senate and House of Representatives, Obama will need to sell the stimulus package to a Congress where Republicans have expressed strong opposition, complaining of opacity and often open-ended promises in the stimulus, while questioning how much of the huge sums would actually trigger growth. You know, they could just be sending money into a pork barrel, which I imagine is what it is that the Republicans are complaining about. U.S. ambassador says Britain and Guantanamo talks. The outgoing U.S. ambassador to London says talks have been held with British officials about Britain accepting Guantanamo Bay detainees if the camp for terrorist suspects is closed. I would hope that if the UK could see its way through to take some detainees, that we could certainly be helpful, Ambassador Robert Tuttle told the Times of London. Certainly there have been discussions over that issue, said Tuttle, who is due to leave his post next month. The U.S. Embassy confirmed the ambassador's quotes were accurate, but declined to elaborate. Bear in mind, of course, that the Democrats have long opposed keeping the detainees in Gitmo, and now, not wanting to release them to the U.S. public, they're trying to send them to other democracies. Long may we dwindle, Tim Blair. All hail the dwindling rearguard. Cold snaps are routinely seized upon by a dwindling rearguard of climate skeptics as proof that climate change is exaggerated or an outright fabrication, leading French climate scientist Jean Jouzel said. We'll give it up as soon as this decade-long cold snap ends. Gaza strips. From Tim Blair. The Middle East Media Research Institute reports the following excerpt was broadcast on Hamas Al-Aqsa TV on January the 7th, 2009 at 3 a.m. Presumably, the Hamas technician on duty got bored with the live image of Gaza at night and decided to view other satellite channels, focusing on the Polish erotic channel Patio TV. What he did not realize was that the images were being aired live on Al-Aqsa TV. This went on for about 6 minutes. The image of Gaza at night was then restored. For 6 minutes, the production of modest homemade rockets was temporarily halted. Turned away at the end, just like Joseph and Mary from Tim Blair. Keith Olbermann and Margaret Carlson discussed the terrible Blair House snubbing of Barack and Michelle Obama. Carlson, a fake turkey believer of course, suggests that John Howard's Washington visit is part of a Bush-led anti-Obama hotel conspiracy. Considering that no opinion polls have recently asked about the popularity or otherwise of Howard, there's no point seeing as he's retired, that exchange is puzzling.